Well, welcome to St Martinville, Louisiana, folks. Today you're in for a treat for sure because we are going to explore and tour St. Martin de Tours Church, Catholic Church, here in St. Martinville, Louisiana, right on the corners of Main Street and Bridge Street. So stay tuned, here we go. So on this beautiful Saturday, uh, January 28th, 2023, we're here at St. Martin de Tours Catholic Church, which was built in 1836. It actually took 7 years to build due to multiple reasons, including whenever they started to build it, the river, which is the Bayou Teche River that runs behind it, was running low at the time, the low tide. The river was low for years. So it took them 7 years to, get all the supplies and all that to build it. So and it was actually, the church was officially dedicated in 1844 on June 2nd. The statue you see here is Father, I'm going to mispronounce this, but Angie Marie Jan, who's an early pastor who served from 1851 to 87. And in 1874, he added the transcripts to the church where the Grotto of Lourdes, and you'll see that inside, and the Sacred Heart altar are located, and extended the sanctuary to its present size, giving the church its current cruciform shape. And again, I'm sorry I mispronounced that name. I'm confident I did. What a beautiful day to see this place. It's just so perfect outside. A bit windy, which is why I'm doing the overdub here instead of torching you guys with all this wind noise. We're going to go take a quick look around the outside really quick, and then we're going to go inside and really explore. And the church has been enlarged and renovated over the years. So you'll find, especially when you get inside, that a vast majority of it, and you can tell that most of it is original. And you'll see what I mean when you get in there. But it has been kept up, and with all old buildings like that, which are still used, like this one is today, you're going to have to do renovations and upgrades to it, so it's understandable. But this church, St. Martin de Tours, is the third oldest Catholic church in Louisiana and one of the oldest Catholic churches in the United States, which is not a big surprise, being that the majority of Catholic churches in the United States are most likely in the South and in the East Coast. And here's some graves and headstones of some significant priests that served here. Now this one right here, this is actually Father Marcel Barella, who was the 10th pastor of St. Martin de Tours. And he departed the parish in 1836, and when he departed, he left $16,000 for the building of a brick church. The church was incorporated under state legislative approval on March 7th, 1814, and on March 16th, 1820, the building of the church was approved. And in that same year, in 1820, Pierre Benjamin Bousson, who was, this is pretty interesting, he was a well-known architect from New Orleans in the Greek Revival style. And get this, he was actually an engineer in Napoleon's army and designed the first custom house in New Orleans. So he was designated to design this church. So the same man who designed this church was an engineer in Napoleon's army. And now you can see here's the plaque for the National Register of Historic Places, and we're about to walk inside and see all of this in all of its glory. Luckily, there's nobody here. I already glanced in just now. A while ago, I looked inside, and we're the only ones here. So we're going to get a very intimate look at everything without having to worry about, bothering somebody who's trying to pray or spend time in silence. So, a pretty statue of Joan of Arc right there. Nice little chandelier in the entryway there. And here we are. You can see these beautiful columns that sit on these simple square pedestals line the sanctuary here. And you'll see a bunch of these gorgeous statues that were built. These most likely are celebrating some of the Attakapaw Indians that were part of the original area here when the church and the rituals, as they call them, were established here in the 1700s. Beautiful stained glass windows, these really nice statues here that are scenes. You'll find that the left wall of the church that we're looking at now is a progression of Christ bearing the cross, carrying the cross through town, and his worshipers and followers and sympathizers are trying to help him. And of course they didn't want that to be happening when it was. And so you'll see the wall on the right, you'll see is Christ actually being crucified. Now this area here, you saw the grotto, that wall of rocks and such. That was a grotto that was built actually by a former slave, or a freed slave at the time. It's called the Grotto of Lourdes. And it was a Creole colored man named Pierre Francois Hippolyte Martinet, or Martinet, who lived from 1847 to 1905. And it was built using bousselage, which is basically mud and clay from the Bayou Teche. And like I said, I mentioned earlier, this is the grotto I mentioned earlier. I've seen a couple old, two or three churches now, Catholic churches in South Louisiana that have grottos like this. St. Michael's Church in Convent, Louisiana, which is probably just as old, if not older, than St. Martin de Tours, but probably close to around the same age. I highly recommend you guys going to see that one if you get a chance. And they have a grotto in theirs also. There's a Mary statue. And I don't know how much or if at all, if this grotto has been touched up or renovated or cleaned up at all, but it looks basically brand new. There's just such a massive amount of seating in this sanctuary. Just so much seating, all these pews. Almost every square inch they can fit one in, they've done it. This nice bell here. And some more of these really nice statues. There's the Archangel right there. You can get a glimpse of this gorgeous attention to detail on the roofing here, or in the ceiling, which I'm confident dates back quite a while. St. Michael the Archangel. And this is very unique. I've always liked this very much. It's a spiral staircased elevated platform, essentially, like a lookout style, almost like a castle looking outlook. And the priests actually do give mass standing on here. Very unique indeed. And one personal story, connection to this place, which initially has always drawn me to this place, is the fact that my grandparents, my father's parents, were married here in May of 1949, so about 74 years ago almost to the date. They stood essentially right where I'm standing right here in this spot and exchanged vows. And I always felt a huge connection to that. I think that was just always pretty nostalgic for me and pretty special. Now you see here these doors on the pews. I've seen this at, again, one or two other Catholic churches, but not many. This was the first one I've ever seen those, or seen them on, or at. A very unique feature. I don't know, you guys could tell me if you're from around the country where there are older Catholic churches. Maybe you can chime in the comments and let me know if you guys have seen those before. But I've always thought that was very unique for this church, is that not solely to this church, but very unique for this church, is the doors on the pews. Again, this right wall here, these four scenes, statue scenes you see on the right wall here, are the progression of Christ actually being crucified. The wall on the left is more so of him bearing and carrying the cross, and the wall here is actually the progression of the crucifixion itself. Very sad scenes indeed. They're about to put him on the cross there, nail him to the cross. You see more of that attention to detail on the ceiling, the art. In this area here, I've spent time in this area here multiple times when I've come into the church just to stop by and pray, spend time alone in praying outside of Mass. Let's see if I can get a better, I was fighting with glare here. St. Andre Fournay, 1752. There's Jesus on the cross there. And this is when he was taken off of the cross after he died. I mean, the church really went above and beyond to attain these statues, these scenes. Like about 10 of them. And here's I think the last one. And sorry, I was fighting with glare a lot right here, so it's kind of hard for me to see those two statues' names that I just glanced at up top there. But these are St. Matthew, St. Mark, St. Luke, with his calf there, and St. John, just like in the Bible. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Beautiful angel there. And again, I love just standing in here. I do this when I'm even when I'm not doing vlogs. I like to just stand here and adore this church. I love this part right here because this little inscription here with that beautiful stained glass lighting just pouring over it. It just completes that whole room, in my own opinion. But like I said, even when I'm here by myself, if I come just to stop by and pray for a little bit or whatever, I love just standing here and just looking around this place, taking it all in. Our Lady of Fatima, for those of you who know the story of Fatima. There's that almost Art Deco looking star pattern inside the ceiling there. I'm sure it most likely dates further back than that era. But I don't know. Maybe it was added around that time. And here's a look at the altar. I'm so glad I got to be in here alone today, just so I can really take my time with it all and not be in anybody's way. And one thing I really love about this interior is that there wasn't a light on. There was no light. No lights were on when I was in this place. This is all natural light, just pouring in from those huge stained glass windows. You can see the organ pipes right up on top of the, up there. There we go. Better look at them. I'll give you one last pan over of this beautiful, beautiful church here. Hope you enjoyed this. Let's go outside now. Now, as we exit the church and walk outside, I'm going to show you guys the rectory here right next to the church. Looks like they're building a fountain there or something. I know it's windy here today, guys. Please bear with me. If it's too bad, I'm just going to do an overdub, but we'll see how this comes out. But this rectory here, which is called the Presbytère, was built in 1856. It's beautiful, huh? It's a two-story rectory, as you can see. And these 5 flags up here represent the 5 countries that, I guess, controlled this area. I say controlled, but owned or, inhabited this area before or since the church was incorporated here. You can see right here, it says right here, of course it explains it better than I said it. Flags represent the 5 governments under which this church parish was subject. Left to right as you face the house is France, 1756. I'll show you the flags as I read it. So that's France, which is the Bourbon line, 1756 to 1762. And this one right here is Spain, which is also the Bourbon line, 1762 to 1800. And this one right here in the middle is the first French Republic, which was under Napoleon, 1800 to 1803. Those are the Napoleon years, when it has to do with as it has to do with Louisiana and Napoleon's involvement in Louisiana. Of course, there's the United States, which is the Louisiana Purchase time frame, 1803 to 1861. And that one on the end is a Confederacy, Stars and Stripes, 1861 to 1865. Pretty interesting, huh? You can see it's right next to the church. This really pretty courtyard or front lawn area here. Right along Old Main Street, St Martinville. Now, from what I've read, these columns were built a little bit, or added on a little bit after the structure was built. So they're not quite original, but they were added on not too long after the original structure was built, or when the house itself was built. So not much of a significant gap, but I did read that. Now, next we're gonna go walk over to the left of the church, which is the Parish Hall, which actually predates the Civil War. Go take a look at that real quick. And here's the old Parish Hall, which sits right to the left of the church. There's a church right there. And this predates the Civil War. So prior to the 1860s, apparently. Which would put it at about 180 years old, give or take. If I did that math correctly. I don't think I did that math correctly. 100, where are we at now? Let's see here. 1861. So yeah, 1861 to 1933. So about 160 years ago. I was off by 20 years, but well, guys, that about wraps it up for St. Martin de Tours Church here in St. Martinville, Louisiana. If you're ever in the area, please feel free to come and take a look at it. It's such a beautiful place, so quiet and quaint. Just the looking at the attention to detail inside this church and knowing how old it is and how well it's been kept up over all these years. Just a beautiful place. I couldn't pass this up. I've been wanting to vlog this place for a while now, but I have to work around mass schedules and all that, you know. So sorry it's so windy out here. I'm trying not to get too much wind noise for you guys, but Anyway, enjoy your weekend. Stay tuned for more. And I'll go ahead and sign off here. And with that note, with the church bells ringing, I'll say have a great weekend. And I'll see you soon, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.